For this week's programming, we're going to do loops for and for each, and get a check mark next to this little module and take a screenshot and turn it in for credit. A couple things to point out. When you get to lesson 3, I found lesson 3 to be a little bit buggy, and I'll show you what I mean, or maybe I won't. Maybe it'll totally work now. So lesson 3, PHP. I want to go to loops for and for each. For loops. It's loading. Let me try to go to lesson 3. There we go. I'm at lesson 3. So I had this kind of not in the right space. I just went right here and I hit enter and I started typing, which would be right there, right? And then when I hit submit, it just kind of did its thing where it kind of hung for a little bit. So I went back to the beginning, Codecademy, and I went back into the PHP, and I went back into that area, and I went back to number 3. So basically what I was doing is I was just reloading this page, and I said, well, let me make sure that this is aligned with the tab mark. So I tabbed it over. I hit tab so it was aligned with these little tab marks, and I then submitted, and everything was okay. And so I know that's kind of funky, but you know, that's programming. So whoever built this Codecademy site, that was something they didn't take into account, and it's a little bit of an error. And so this PHP thing isn't running quite as well as the HTML CSS did, nor is it running quite as well as some of the other trainings I've taken on Codecademy. But they have more things going on in the background here because they're having to process the PHP, which is slightly different than processing just the HTML. And so maybe that's part of it. The other thing to point out here is you have a new notation, this plus plus, and that's just known as like a shortcut iterator or something like that. And it just adds a number. So if you have a variable and you just do a plus plus after it, it adds 1 to the variable. And so that's one way you could increase the value of a variable right there. And so this loop saying start out at 0, and while the value is less than 11, right, loop through and print each value and add 1 each time to the value. And so that's just adding, the plus plus adds 1. You could also write it like this, right? Each time you go through a loop, add 5, make the value of this variable controlling the loop, make it increase by 5 each time through the loop. All right, so that's what I have to point out this week about these different ones. I'm just looking here to see the for each, to see if there's anything to point out with the for each. For each went pretty well for me, no problems there. All right, get that check mark and turn it in.